On behalf of the International Center for Law and Religion Studies, here at the J. Reuben Clark Law School at Brigham Young University, I'd like to welcome you to our 25th Annual Law and Religion Symposium. It's a great delight and pleasure to have you here. We'd like to start tonight with an invocation, and Ganun Diop, who's the General Secretary of the International Religious Liberty Association, has graciously agreed to offer a prayer for us.
Shall we, those willing, to bow our heads for a short invocation. Lord of life, Creator of heaven and earth and all that is in, I would like to thank you personally for having inspired the organizers of this symposium to put in their mind these two necessary themes: human dignity and religious freedom. We thank you for this opportunity because the future of peace depends on our fully embracing the dignity of every human being, and also the respect for human conscience, this inner sanctum that you have created, a special place to communicate with each person. We thank you that the future of our very humanity also depends on this. We thank you for all the people who have traveled safely to be here. May the contributions be remarkable in ways to make this world a better place for millions. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the gift of respect of your image in every human being. We thank you in your name. Amen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Would like to invite people, there's a few more seats down in front, or to take their seats in the overflow room across the hall. We're very excited to have you here. This is our 25th Annual International Law and Religion Symposium. And our presenters include approximately 85 government officials, religious leaders, scholars, academics, civic leaders from over 50 countries. And I'm particularly excited about our keynote speakers this evening, and we'll hear an introduction for her in a minute. But first, I would like to introduce those who will be offering welcomes on behalf of the law school and the university. First, we'll have a welcome from President Kevin J. Worthen, who's the 13th president of Brigham Young University. We're pleased to call him our own. He graduated here from BYU with both bachelor's and Juris Doctorate degrees. He's a lawyer. He also clerked for Justice Byron White of the U.S. Supreme Court and practiced law before coming back as a faculty member in the Hugh W. Colton Professor of Law. He served as dean of the law school before serving as a BYU advancement vice president and now as president of Brigham Young University. Following him, we'll have a welcome from the law school dean, D. Gordon Smith. He is the Glenn L. Farr Professor of Law at BYU. He received a bachelor's degree in accounting from BYU and a Juris Doctorate from the University of Chicago Law School. Before joining the faculty here at BYU, he was a professor at the University of Wisconsin Law School. He's a specialist in law and entrepreneurship. And finally, we'll receive a welcome on behalf of the Center for Law and Religion Studies from Brett Scharff, who's the Rex E. Lee Chair and a professor of law here at the J. Reuben Clark Law School, and is director of the International Center for Law and Religion Studies. He was a graduate of Georgetown University. He received a BSBA in International Business, an MA in Philosophy, and was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University, where he received a BPhil in Philosophy. He studied law at Yale Law School, and we've been grateful to have him serve both as an associate dean here at the law school and now as director of the center. We'll go in that order, and then Professor Scharff will offer an introduction of our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. It truly is a pleasure and an honor to welcome you here to the 25th Annual Symposium of the International Law and Religion Symposium. You've come here from over 50 countries, and I'm old enough and been around long enough I can remember the very first one of these. I was involved just simply as an observer. There were a lot fewer people. We met up in a little conference center near here and was just talking with Cole Durham a little bit where they were still photocopying materials at the last minute, putting them together literally by hand. It's remarkable to see what has happened here. And this year, it's particularly exciting because it's not only a discussion, which is the main point, but also a celebration of the 70th anniversary of the time at which the General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it's appropriate that we focus in on that, and from its stirring first article, which declares that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And then the list of the rights that are there, which include in the 18th article, the right of thought, conscience, and freedom of and religion as the freedoms that are enabled there. And it's a wonderful aspirational statement that has been out there for 70 years, that if we adhered to it completely in all the ways that we could, it would dramatically improve society. But as you know, the details are a little bit more difficult. It started out that way. Of the 58 member nations in 1948, 48 of them voted to adopt this. No one voted against it, but there were 8 abstentions and 2 who did not vote. So from the very beginning, the exact meaning of these terms became a bit more difficult than just the aspirational standards. And through various international covenants and conventions, we're working through that. But we certainly haven't arrived at the day at which we know exactly how that balance should be struck in the various tensions that happen. And I view this as important not only for the university, but for the world, to have you here involved in that kind of discussion about what it means to focus in on the rights of dignity and rights and how they interact with one another. Now, it's fitting that this kind of discussion involving religion and international norms is held at Brigham Young University. We are, above all else, I suppose, a religiously affiliated university. We are the largest religiously affiliated university in the United States with just over 33,000 students. Most of those are undergraduates. As I hope you will have as you interact with the students, you will find out that they are very bright students. Measured by the ACT score, the Standardized National Test, the average student here at BYU is in the 90th percentile of those who take the test. The average high school GPA of our students is just about 3.86. They are very bright, and they do good things after they leave here. In terms of people, universities who produce PhD recipients at other universities, we're number 5 in the country. And some of them go on to distinguished political careers. There are 4 members of the U.S. Senate who are alumni of Brigham Young University. So it is a place in which there is distinction in terms of its academics, but most importantly of all here, each student makes a commitment to live their lives in accordance with the standards which reflect the principles and values of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They are here not only to be stimulated intellectually, but to be strengthened spiritually. And we are very serious about being a religiously affiliated university, so that part fits here well. But it's also clear that we have an international focus here at the university. Like many universities, we have students here from over 100 countries. What is distinctive about BYU, at least compared to the other universities in the United States, are the large number of students who speak a second language fluently. 65% of our students speak a second language fluently, and by the time they're seniors, that's taking into account, the 65 takes into account some freshmen who will be learning languages. By the time they're seniors, 71% of the students speak a second language fluently, and 16% of them speak at least 3 languages fluently. To give you an idea, we offer courses in foreign languages regularly of 55 different languages, and another 30 that are available depending upon the demand for the students. And in the typical semester at BYU, over 30% of the students are enrolled in a foreign language class. To give you some perspective, the nationwide average for that is about 9%, so we're more than triple what most universities are doing. In addition to that, we have about over 140 study abroad programs in 55 different countries, which makes us one of the largest study abroad programs in the nation, in the United States. And people from outside come to the United States, has come to BYU as well. Over the last 20 years, we've had over 250 ambassadors to the United States come to BYU as part of a program in which they lecture here from over 105 countries, about 10 per year that we have. So this is a very fitting setting in which we can talk about religiously affiliated organizations and entities and what religion means, but also what it means in an international context. And it's for that reason that I am thrilled, as I've seen this symposium grow over the year in importance and impact beyond Provo and out in the world, to see the kind of good things and discussions that happen when people of goodwill come together with different perspectives and debate the kind of things and discuss the kind of things that you will be doing. So welcome to Brigham Young University, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. Thank you.
You are an impressive sight, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this opening session of the 25th Annual Symposium of the International Center for Law and Religion Studies, and I welcome you on behalf of the BYU Law School. We're honored to have you here on our campus, and we hope you'll feel welcome by all you meet here today and in the coming days. You come from around the globe. I won't review the entire list, but as you will learn while interacting, you come from all over the world, and we are grateful to have you here to discuss the many difficult issues that surround human dignity and the freedom of religion or belief. I'm particularly pleased today to welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Judge Ann Power Ford. Welcome to the law school. I look forward to hearing her remarks in a few minutes. I want to take a moment just to thank my colleagues in the Center for all of the hard work that relates to this. You'll hear from Professor Brett Scharff, the director of the center, soon. I think many of you, or most of you, will know Professor Cole Durham, the founding director of the center, and you've already heard from Professor Elizabeth Clark, and you will meet, if you haven't already, Professor Gary Doxey, who are associate directors of the center. They and all of the other employees of the center have done Herculean work to bring this conference to pass, and I'm grateful for that work. BYU Law School is one of the most exciting and innovative law schools in the world. I believe that legal education changes the world for good, and I think that's what we're doing at the law school. We teach our students that legal education is a leadership degree, and the law school exemplifies that in both ideas and action. There's perhaps no better example of this than the International Center for Law and Religion Studies. The center began with an audacious idea that representatives of a small law school in the middle of Utah could change the landscape of religious liberty throughout the world. As you see today and will witness over the coming days, this idea has blossomed into a mighty set of actions, enlisting people like you from around the globe in discussions about law and religion. This is truly an impressive gathering, the effects of which will change the world. I'd like to say more about the law school, but I'd like even more to hear from Judge Power Ford. So I'm going to just conclude by saying thank you again for coming. I look forward to getting to know you and having you meet some of our wonderful faculty and students over the coming days. Thank you for joining us in this important endeavor.
All right. Again, it's my pleasure to join President Worthen and Dean Smith in welcoming you here to BYU Law School. We're grateful that you're here and glad that we're able to begin our program this evening. The mission of this center is to try to promote religious freedom for all, and we try to do this in a variety of ways. What I'd like to do in just 3 or 4 minutes is go through each of the words in the title of our center's name and each of our institutional affiliations and say a little bit about how we try to give service to each of these ideals. First of all, we're the International Center for Law and Religion Studies. Our work is international in its scope, and we seek to be international in our outlook. As I mentioned to some of you earlier, we hold 20 to 30 conferences per year in areas around the world, more than 330 since the center was launched on January 1st, 2000. Of course, this symposium is our signature keynote event. You have now joined more than 1,300 people over the last 24 years from 125 countries who have come to discuss law and religion matters. We are a center. As an academic center, we bring significant resources, people, academic expertise, and organizational capacity to the task of furthering the center's mission. We can do together what none of us could do individually or even individually taken in the aggregate. We love having visitors to the center. In the last year, we have welcomed delegations from Afghanistan and Pakistan, from France, from Saudi Arabia, among other countries. We've had visiting scholars from around the world, including Vietnam, the United States, and Africa. Our work is in the field of law and religion. And this is significant because this is an intersection where practical, workable, and enforceable solutions are sought to pressing social issues, and religion, which is one of the places where the deepest questions of life, meaning, and truth are examined and lived. Our focus on law and religion is manifest in the websites we maintain, the headline news services which we put out, and through our social media presence. We have been involved in law reform efforts in more than 50 countries. And we have teaching programs in a variety of countries, including China, Vietnam, Myanmar, Nigeria, Indonesia, and beginning this year at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. The last word in our title is studies. This manifests itself in several ways. The primary one is our focus on students. Our goal is to involve our students in everything we do, whether it's research, conferences, or teaching. And as you will soon understand, we consider them the secret sauce of our success. We're supported by an international academic advisory board, several of whom are here with us at this symposium, and we're grateful for their support, their guidance, and their critique of our work. As part of the studies, we occasionally engage in advocacy. Here's a picture of some of our students working on a brief in a recent Supreme Court case. Our affiliations are very important to us. At the center, we are a part of the J. Reuben Clark Law School. J. Reuben Clark was a church leader. He was actually an ambassador to Mexico who had never held a high church calling when he was called as a counselor in the first presidency of the church. And he gave many remarkable conference addresses, but perhaps the one for which he is best known was called To Those of the Last Wagon. This was an extended parable about the pioneers who crossed the plains in covered wagons. And he was celebrating not those pioneers out front, where the air was clear and the view was expansive, but those who were at the back of the wagon train, plowing through the muck and debris left behind by those in front, the dust and the dirt kicked up by the wagons in those dusty desert plains. Those who perhaps were a little slow to start the day's work because they were tired or their team of oxen was weak. And his view and his charge, which we repeat to all of our students on the first day they arrive here at this law school, is to always be mindful to those of the last wagon. And so I'm grateful that we bear the name of J. Reuben Clark. We're also part of a law school, and the center benefits from being located within one of the leading law schools in the United States and in the world that has an explicit religious mission as part of its self-understanding. Being affiliated with a religiously affiliated law school makes our work easy. We're part of Brigham Young University, as President Worthen has explained, a university of more than 33,000 students with 2,000 international students, many of which speak foreign languages and many of which participate in overseas programs. To be a small law school that's part of a large university is a great blessing, because not only does it give you a natural reservoir of students who want to come for graduate school, but it also gives you institutional strength that we would otherwise not have. And most importantly, the affiliation with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. BYU is owned and shepherded by the Church of Jesus Christ and is the flagship educational institution of the Church. A deep commitment to religious freedom is not only a foundational principle, but is quite literally an article of faith of the Church. The 11th article of faith of the Church states, "We claim the privilege of worshiping Almighty God according to the dictates of our own conscience, and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may." Notice the expansive wording of this declaration, which was made in the 1840s. This was a declaration made by the prophet Joseph Smith in response to an inquiry from a newspaperman about what the church believes. I want to conclude with another quote from the founding prophet of the church, Joseph Smith. He said, "The saints can testify whether I am willing to lay down my life for my brethren. If it has been demonstrated that I have been willing to die for a Mormon, I am bold to declare before heaven that I am just as ready to die in defending the rights of a Presbyterian, a Baptist, or a good man of any other denomination. For the same principle which would trample upon the rights of the Latter-day Saints, would trample upon the rights of the Roman Catholics, or of any other denomination who may be unpopular and too weak to defend themselves. It is a love of liberty which inspires my soul, civil and religious liberty to the whole of the human race." We are pleased to follow in the footsteps of this bold declaration. And so in conclusion, what do we stand for? I'm not good at putting things into few words, but we have a donor, supporter, who's sitting here today who challenged me again and again and again on a bus ride in India to shorten my description. And finally he was satisfied when I got it down to 4 words. King, do you remember this bus ride? Yes, I do. Religious freedom for all. That's what we stand for. And we're grateful that we're able to hold forums such as this where we can discuss the ways to make that a reality for everyone. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome. It's now my